was gonna say, I didn't get a packet.
You're on.
Back to Joe.
Okay, it is 6:41. We're calling the regular council meeting to order for Tuesday, October 15th, 2024. Ms. Monroe, if you'd like to call the roll.
Mayor Don Barnard.
Here.
Tiffany Hollis.
Here.
Ryan Green.
Here.
Dave Seaman.
Here.
Jeff Barr.
Present.
Wes Kiesel.
Here.
Bob Orsini.
Here. If we could please stand for the invocation by Mr. or Councilman Seelan, and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Lord, as we prepare our hearts and minds for tonight's meeting, please fill us with wisdom and strength. Guide our decisions for the betterment of Johnstown and serve our citizens to the degree they deserve. We know that the heart of man plans his ways, but the Lord establishes his steps. We thank you for the blessings that you have given our community. Thank you for the families that make Johnstown what it is. Thank you for the leaders in our schools, protective services, and other organizations that serve the people of Johnstown. Continue to watch over them and guide them as you do over us. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome on this nice, cold, wet night. We have first on the agenda, approval of the agenda. We've all received the agenda. Is there any more changes? None?
Yes, I do not believe at this time, and we can wait till we get to that action item, if you would prefer, in an executive session to discuss imminent court action. I do not believe that one is necessary. So you can scratch that now, or you can wait till you get to that 15 item on your agenda.
Do we just want to leave it on just in case? Okay.
Fine.
Anything else?
I have nothing else, unless you want to, no, that'll work.
Okay. What is the will of council?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
We're all in favor.
Aye. Okay, Ms. Monroe, did you receive any comments or public comments for that?
Yes, we have one speaker slip, Connie Ryan and Terry Fetters.
Welcome up, ladies.
I'm Connie Ryan, my sister Terry Fetters. We are still representing the Perry Miles family, and we noticed when we come into town, there's a sign that says Congressman Ashbrook Way, another one Don Jakeway Place, and we just would like the community to be aware that we had a brigadier general from Johnstown, and we are wondering what the steps were to try and get a sign that says Brigadier General Perry M. Miles. And where, and you tell us what to do.
By you guys, we
Yeah.
just didn't know the lane that we needed to start.
I mean, we've got two out there, so obviously it's possible. So what should we do?
I think we can pass a resolution through council and get a sign made,
Pick a street.
pick a street. Yeah.
When's the last time they did the Jakeway one's probably the most recent, isn't it?
They did those both at the same
They
time,
did.
I think, yeah.
What year were those?
Probably within the last 5 years, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Was it?
I would say so too.
Okay.
So my question to council would be, for some clarity, would be, are you looking to associate a roadway specifically with Brigadier General Miles, or are you wanting to have some type of informational sign on the entry points of Johnstown stating home of, birthplace associated with that?
Would be nice.
Or, like I said, the roadway. I can tell you the Ashbrook and the Jakeway piece was associated with 62 and 37 whenever it was passed in a resolution. But there's a lot of options out there. You tell me what you prefer. We will then start the legwork to find out how it can be done, what should be done. To give you background on Jakeway and Ashbrook, it was a resolution.
I would like to make a suggestion.
Sure.
You speak with the two of these ladies to come back with option A that the city administration thinks is best, and working with these two ladies, bring it to us, and then we go from there. Instead of trying to figure this out tonight.
I like it.
Okay.
Jeff, who you saying we, as in
The city
Sean?
manager,
Sean.
Mr. Liggett, the chief, if Dave needs to be involved, and the two of you.
Okay.
And
Sounds
you,
good.
you,
Get
you
some
guys
ideas.
express what you'd like to do and figure out.
We're
I think
open
it's a
for
great
ideas.
idea.
Well, I think offline, you can get all that figured out, come back to council, tell us what we need to do, and
You want to bring it to a safety and service meeting? Is that easier? Or whatever?
We may do the internals.
Whatever's easiest.
But let's find out what everybody's looking for. I'll tell you, I'll do the devil's advocate. It's not gonna stifle what they're looking to do. However, I will tell you that I think there needs to be a qualifier. Do I think this qualifies? Yes. However, we need to establish a qualifier. That way, somebody that has a tremendous affection for someone else doesn't come to you with the same request, and then you are then obligated to do the same. Like I said, I think this circumstances obviously elevate this to be a qualifier.
We could put a
but-
policy in place.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate it.
Easiest thing all night. Any other citizen comments tonight? Okay. Council committee reports. Planning and zoning, you guys met on the 8th of October. Your next meeting's the 22nd at 6:30. Anything to report from that one?
Had an interesting meeting, brought in our newest member, picked a new chairman.
Thumbs up. Okay. Design Review Board, they also met that night. Their next meeting's the 22nd at 5 PM. Ms. Monroe, anything to report from that meeting, or Sean?
It was long, there was a lot of applications. Dave, I can go through them if you want. They conditionally approved some solar panels for a house on Meadow Lane. Their desire to not see solar panels from the front elevation. They approved a sign downtown, a window sign for a jeweler, 24 South Main. They approved a shed demo, approved a residential addition of a pool house on DeRosa. Conditionally approved a shelter house structure over on Recreation Drive.
Where?
Tabled a pool demo happening on Buena Vista, to give it a little more information. Approved a roof material and color change to a home here on Main Street. They're going to a red metal roof. Approved a deck on South Williams, that was it.
Finance met tonight. Our next meeting is November 6th at 5 PM in council chambers. We have quite a few items for tonight. There's 3 resolutions that we move forward to you guys tonight. So those will be coming up. We have a couple executive sessions that we'll be talking about later on tonight, but I think that's about it. Safety and Service, their next meeting is November 6th at 5:45. Any other committees that met over the last couple of weeks? Okay. The Chief of Police gave his report to all council members. You've all had a chance to review that. Does anyone have any questions for Chief Smart? Hearing none. The City Manager, his report is included in here. Sean, would you like to go over any highlights?
First, I'll ask if there's any questions before I go through highlights. If there is none, I'll jump right into the highlights. Hearing none. We have our NPDS hearing October 22nd. That is actually highlighted in your packet. This hearing will be held at the Johnstown Independent Baptist Church. It would be great if all of council could participate. It's at 6 PM. This will run obviously in conflict with our zoning meeting. I cannot be 2 places at once, so I will be at the NPDS permit hearing. And we will probably have opportunities to provide any type of testimony that we would like, supporting our expansion of our wastewater treatment plant, from a 1.2 million to a 2 using the Aqua Narita system. That seemed to be the point of emphasis, or in question as far as the letter that we received requesting the hearing. So
Can I stop
absolutely.
you for a second? Jack, that system, the
Aqua Narita.
I actually read about it. Could you give council just a very high level of what the system is? Because it's based out of Europe. where it's come from and the technology behind it.
Yes, it is. It's based out of Europe. There's also many plants being built in the United States. I actually went to Walsall, Kansas, to look at their plant. The reason it's becoming so popular, and it's very effective, is you can treat more sewage on a smaller footprint. And another thing that makes it very attractive to Johnstown is these treatment processes will fit within our SBR tanks that we currently have at our 1.2 MGD facility. So basically, it just allows us to treat more sewage faster in a smaller space. And it saves money on purchase of ground. And again, instead of maxing out at 2.4 million gallons a day at that facility, we can go clear to 4.8 million gallons a day at that facility without any major purchase of ground.
Thank you.
Great.
Sorry, Sean.
No, I love the science of it. So, Jack?
Do you know how many roughly are in the United States of this new system?
Of this new system, I think somewhere between 10 and 20 right now, and more being built all the time, simply because the technology has been proven over in Europe, and pretty much human waste is human waste.
Right.
It's equal around the world.
And are you finding that these other cities that have it here in the US, it's affirming what the research?
It is affirming the research, and not only are they building their first phase, but some of them are into their second phase of the same type of unit.
I believe it came from the Nordic countries, that region, somewhere in that area where it was first devised, and they have some of the highest standards. So it's interesting reading about it, how it's moving its way to the U.S. now.
Thank you.
But it has been a proven technology over in Europe for years.
Thank you.
Is there a strong indication that council members would be able to attend? And also, if you know any community residents that you could lobby to have there, just from a support standpoint? The Ohio EPA will be there during this questioning. So as much support as we can rally for this initiative, it will probably behoove us. So like I said, as many council members we can have there, or any other community associates that you can all lean on to help provide, just support, I think would be helpful.
What's the date again on that?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday?
Yep. 6 p.m.
Are we streaming right now? I just went out to everybody.
I feel like it stopped. It says it is, but
There's also opportunity, even if people are not able to attend, they can still submit either testimonial or.
You can. I
Questions?
believe there is a deadline, and that
Yeah.
deadline might be that night.
Okay.
So if they don't want to give a oral testimony, they can submit a written testimony. I can figure out when the final deadline for that written testimony is in support of our particular plan.
I'll be in zoner.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Do we have something on the agenda for zoning that night?
We do. I will have Trevor here. It is a application to amend the zoning ordinance brought to you by an applicant. So unfortunately, I can't cancel
I'll
that.
be there.
Well, if you got a quorum, maybe.
You got the 29th.
So the other thing I want to highlight on here is Park and Rec. Met with the president of the JYA last week, discussed current facilities and land planning initiatives, some of the conversation that we're currently having with the school district and also with the greater Park and Rec district. And she will be reviewing some of our discussion with her board and providing feedback on these items. I believe their meeting is this Sunday. If I can and I'm allowed, I would probably try to attend that meeting so I can be available for questions as it relates to kind of what we discussed. So that was one item I wanted to highlight as well. Brightspeed, pay no attention to that. That is regurgitation of the previous manager's report. CETA and JEDS, I've been in discussion with the city manager of New Albany, Mr. Stefanoff, in regards to a CETA that they are considering with Jersey Township, as well as potential JEDS as it relates to 161 and Mink development. This is no surprise for us. Internally, we've known that the 161 Mink Road, approximately 500 acres, is currently under discussion. Anybody that looks up on the auditor's map, it's MBJ Holdings, so that's New Albany Company, and they've been very open that they are also doing some type of development down that way. Hasn't been specified exactly what type, but this is the first piece of moving that particular item forward for them. So Joe wanted to connect with us, just give us a copy of the CETA as well as the potential JET agreements, what they could potentially look like, just to get our feedback. Received that on Thursday, have kicked that over to some of our planning team, MKSK, as well as other consultants, and we've come up with some items that we're asking Joe to look at. But overall, good dialogue. They're having their council meeting tonight to potentially discuss that. I have a voicemail on my phone, which I have not checked because we've been in committee meetings from Mr. Stefanoff, so I can't give you the update unless you want me to pop out of the room and listen to it and come back in. But as more information comes in on that, I can help you with it. And if you have any questions, a CETA and a JET are very different. A CETA is an agreement, and like I said, if you have further questions on that, we can unpack that at a later date. Also received a JET agreement from the Monroe Township trustees on property on the southern edge of the township. Currently, staff and legal are reviewing this document, and we should be able to give some feedback to the Monroe Township trustees and council in the coming weeks. So those are some items that I did want to bring to your attention. If you have any questions later on, you can always feel free to call me, and I can give you as much update as I can.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Stewart?
Yeah, one thing I have, last Friday, there was an event, I guess, that took place. The mayor or city manager, MKSK, on a zoning, had a zoning presentation. I wanted to see if city council will see that zoning presentation. Is that possible?
It was a question and answer.
It was a question and answer.
Mhm.
Was there a presentation given at all or framework for that?
It was,
Not by us, we were just
yeah.
panelists.
Yep, it was MKSK.
They
We
were,
can see if we can get you the presentation that they gave. It was for, it was held at Ohio Wesleyan College. It's about an hour long, and a lot of times planners have to take certification classes, so this checked one of those boxes. MKSK asked if we would be willing to participate. I think the title of our particular piece was In the Path of Progress. So we were available for them to kind of ask some questions as to our direct impact on things that have been taking place over the last couple of years. So
Was it zoning questions or was it?
no.
Oh,
No
because I
zoning.
thought it was a planning and zoning workshop.
No, it wasn't a planning, it was a city, or it was planners, like, education thing. They had an ethics course, which everybody skipped the ethics course to come to this course. Or was it ethics or legal?
I think it was ethics, which we all questioned a little bit, why everyone was skipping ethics to come to ours. We felt that maybe they needed
They were
to
just
go to
doing
ethics.
seminars, and they had to put on one seminar, and they did it on the path of Intel.
Yeah, no, it wasn't anything as far as.
Nothing with zoning.
Zoning, what we're doing, zoning related, or ordinances that we're passing or things like that. It was general discussion from a timeline perspective of kind of the events that happened. A lot of it really revolved around the comprehensive plan, and they were presenting what they did with the comprehensive plan and why it was so important for us to obviously move forward with the comprehensive plan. And they would ask us questions on kind of the process and how those events unfolded, and from our perspective, was it a fun experience? Was it a bad experience? Just general feedback. So no, nothing on the ordinance level, specific level. But yeah,
Okay.
I can get you a presentation.
Yeah, if we can get a presentation on that, I just wanted to see kind of what that was. It wasn't something we heard about previously, so definitely be interested, especially from a zoning standpoint, to see what was discussed and how it was. From what I saw, it was like an hour-long panel session, so I know there's probably some good information in there. Definitely like to see what it is.
I can get it for you. Any other questions for Mr. Stewart?
I do. And I don't know, Sean, if you want to discuss this now or if you'd rather do it in other business. I know in your email you stated it'll probably come up in other business. I just, the conversation about the operators meeting, if you want to have that conversation now with the rest of council, or if you'd like to do it in other business, I'm open to either.
I'll leave it up
Whatever
to you all.
anyone else wants to do. Anyone? Anyone?
I think in interest of the agenda, move it to other business. It'll still be an open meeting, but that would get it ahead of the other executive sessions, I think, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. In consideration of our guests.
Okay. Anyone else from Mr. Tanner? Okay, item number 9.
Yep.
Go ahead.
You were seeking 2 people on the union. I think we've established Dave and I
Mhm.
to coordinate, so you got that, because you wanted to coordinate calendars.
Correct. We're gonna get with Dave Riepenhoff, we've got a lot of Daves. Dave Riepenhoff to coordinate the calendars. So yes, you and Dave Seelan, the other Dave, we'll get you connected on that circular email so that everyone can find out when is the best date and time for everyone.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, council decision on zoning map amendment. Mr. Nyberger's asked to keep this tabled, correct? Okay. Public hearing zone map amendment, 670 West Coshocton Street. This is a planning and zoning resolution. It's the transmission of it to zoning has moved it forward to council, and this is just a public notice that we've been served. Anything else that we need to do with that, Ms. Monroe?
We need to open this up for a public hearing.
Okay. So the resolution passed by zoning was a resolution by the Planning and Zoning Commission initiating an amendment to the official zoning map of the city of Johnstown, Ohio, in accordance with section 1137 of the codified ordinances of Johnstown, Ohio. So we're opening up a public hearing on this, that the public can comment on this. They will be able to comment again in 2 weeks, correct?
No, this is the
This,
public hearing.
okay,
And your decision will be made next meeting.
okay. Do we have any public comment on this item?
What is
Would you like to explain it, Ryan?
Yeah, so essentially what we have, long story short, the old Coughlin dealership, we had split zoning there. So what happened was there was a zoning where it was zoned kind of more of our high-end homes in there. As we all know, there's been multiple storefronts for years in there, so it's kind of just cleaning up some old zoning to allow more business to operate in that area, because I think as we all know, that is not going to be housing. It's not gonna really work as housing in that area, so just kind of cleans that up for you. That's long story short, but there's more to it than that.
Any public comment on that? Okay. Move forward, there's no tabled legislation. Public hearings of legislation. The first one's Resolution 2024-38, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Revised Code Sections 5705.34 and 5705-30.35. Basically, this is the amounts that the county is notifying us that will be taxed and received, or our portion of it from the real estate taxes. Is that correct, Dave? So this is an annual thing. They send it to us saying this is the amount that we expect that you'll be getting from the real estate taxes based on your percentage of the real estate. Does council have any questions on this item? Okay. Does open it to the public. Does the public have any questions on this? Hearing none. What is the will of council for resolution 2024-38?
Motion to approve resolution 2024-38 as written.
Second?
Bob Orsini?
Yes.
Dave Seeland?
Yes.
Ryan Green?
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis?
Yes.
Mayor Barnard?
Yes.
Wes Cole?
Yes.
Jeff Barr?
Yes.
Okay, resolution 2024-39, a resolution authorizing the city manager enter into and execute contracts with the Director of Transportation to complete resurfacing and related work inside the city of Johnstown. So resolution 2024-39 has to deal with ODOT and the resurfacing of 37 from both sides of town, and also installing a traffic light at Leafy Dell. This is all slated to take place in 2026, but this is authorizing Sean to begin the contract negotiations or enter into contract with ODOT. Finance has asked that Sean talk to them and find out when we need to have additional items to them. So there are some items in the downtown section, that crosswalks, that we want to be able to do. We need to find out from ODOT when we have to have those things to them so that it goes into the bid and into the contract. So he's supposed to call this week. Did I sum that up?
Yeah, pretty much any improvements we want to do, some curbing stuff that we may want to add, but essentially,
Yeah.
this legislation allows the process to begin, and finance asked Sean to interact with his contacts at the state to see if we wanted to make some additional improvements. Obviously, those would be on our tab, but to roll it into their project so that they could manage it, we could leverage the benefit of engineering and design on a larger scope. So
We get value in engineering by having them do it as part of the whole project.
in the
When-
downtown crosswalk, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
The
You were saying-
downtown crosswalks were the ones we had discussed previously with MKSK, just because we don't want to go back in a year and say, man, if we only would have done this then, we could have it now, and there's costs associated with all that, but we're not committed to any of that. We're only committed to say, yes, we're gonna pay our portion that's required to pay through, 37 through our town. I mean, that's pretty much all we're committed to, with the ask of, hey, let's make sure we're not missing opportunities, by not asking ahead of time.
And the crosswalks was initiated by, if you recall, the American Legion wanting to add some safety and beautification stuff.
The curbs that you guys mentioned, is that around like Bell's door?
That's around
So
Mr.
they just said, part of the discussion was, hey, Jack, get with Sean, tell him what we need, and let's look at that. There was something about we're losing some curb because they're doing overlay, over top, so you know,
overlay.
the road's getting higher and the curbs are staying the same. So whatever that was, we just said, hey, Jack, work with Sean, let's have a discussion, bring us back a bill, and we'll see what we wanna do from there.
Will this get rid of the stamped concrete crosswalks at Pratt and then the portions that are along 37 at 62?
I think that can be a part of the conversation. I know whenever they did 62, they did not mill it.
They didn't touch them, right?
They didn't touch it. I will definitely convey, unless
I'd
I
like
hear
them to take
otherwise, let's go ahead and mill those suckers up whenever they got the machine in there and overlay it and then restripe. Because the concrete that's there now, I think is past its attractiveness. And it needs to either be fixed or paved over and then repainted. Obviously, the cheapest piece of that is gonna be just to go ahead and mill it and repave it and have something that's a little bit more desirable to look at. Right now, it's pretty fragmented.
Sometimes they bleed over just a tad bit
Tad.
into the intersecting roads.
See if they can get a little 62 in there.
I don't.
I will put it out
I
there.
think we should, right?
Doesn't hurt to ask.
crumbling.
It would make my
That might be
day.
one of those items that,
We can
yes,
add-
we'll do it. Will you guys cover these?
Yeah, let's talk about
I
numbers
think
there,
we
because
absolutely should.
those are deteriorating quickly, and they're not going to get better.
No, they need replaced or done away with.
Thank you.
Sean, no,
Go
sorry.
ahead, Wes.
Sean, I was gonna say, I know there was talk before about, instead of a light at Leafy Dell, the possibility maybe a roundabout. Is that still on the table or probably not?
That was discussed. That's a great question. That was discussed a little bit in depth at the Finance Committee meeting tonight.
Okay.
And Jack was able to give us some background, as well as the chief, who were a part of those conversations earlier, prior to my involvement with the city. And to summarize, sounded like everything started to unwind and unravel to where it got pretty expansive. One thing led to another. So the original ask was the traffic light, and then they started to look at everything, I think, like you guys are. And then it was, well, if we put a roundabout here, then maybe we have to put a roundabout at Croton, then do we do a peanut? What it came down to is ODOT said, if you want to do any of that, then that's on you. We'll appropriate these amount of funds. So you can imagine with right-of-way costs that are associated with that particular piece and the engineering and design, a lot more expansive than just putting in a light. and some poles. They were then saying, "Ooh, that's yours. You're going to own that. We're gonna step away and let you kind of have your fun." So that's why it got mothballed. It was probably because of the associated cost. I was not here, but I'll let Jack fill in if anything's wrong there.
It's pretty much in a nutshell, we were gonna have to pay the difference. Now, I thought it was the difference between the light, at that time, back then, I don't know if that's today, they would fund the money that it would have took to put the light in, and then the difference would have had to be picked up by the city.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Sean on Resolution 2024-39? Okay, open this up to the public. Do you guys have any questions about road work on 37 and Leafy Dell that we don't have answers for yet? They're just, we gotta start this process. Okay, hearing none. What is the will of council for Resolution 2024-39?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I want to add one more note since we have some school board members here. I did bang my gong about school crosswalks and painting and how to make them stand out. I live on that soapbox, so.
He suggested bright green.
Well, the bike lanes are green. You see bright green, you know there's bikes, so.
That means go. We don't want
No,
to.
but something. I mean, I've been standing on that box for years and I continue, so. But that's all.
I'd like to make a motion to pass resolution 2024-39 as written.
Second.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Bob Orsini.
Yes.
Dave Seeland.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cobble.
Yes.
Okay, moving to Dave's resolution, Resolution 2024-40, a resolution accepting complete infrastructure for Pulte Homes Creekside Preserve Housing Development. Sean?
Since you live there, just take us through the whole thing.
Dave probably knows all about it.
I'm going to defer this one to either Teresa or Jack to backfill on this particular resolution. I have not been a part of these conversations, but in a nutshell, I believe they have, actually, I'm going to step away and let Jack just take it.
Okay, well, as you know, and the particular Dave lives up there, there's been sections that have been done for years up in there. But now the project, all phases are completed. Normally, you would accept a phase at a time, but there was always this wrong or that wrong, and then the light issue was brought up. Well, the light is separate from accepting this development. So we did a walkthrough with a representative from Pulte. We went through all phases through the development. Curbs have been replaced, sections of sidewalk has been replaced, water valve boxes have been lowered. So long story short, complete walkthrough was done. They completed the punch list, and we are ready, in my opinion, to accept the development as a whole, all phases, and start the one-year warranty on the entire project.
Anything council would like to ask on this one?
I think this one's pretty straightforward. I mean, we took over snow removal last year, right?
Yes.
Like you said, we've
So we're
taken.
doing it anyway.
Yeah, we were already doing that. We've taken on phases. We've worked with them on the traffic light. Talked to them about their bond. Yeah, I think it's pretty standard at this point.
Okay. Any other questions from council on Resolution 2024-40? Open it up to the public. Hearing nothing, what is the will of council for Resolution 2024-40?
Make that motion.
It's all you, Dave.
Thanks. I'll make the motion to pass Resolution 2024-40 as written.
I'll second.
Who was the second?
Me.
Ron.
Okay. Dave Seeland.
Yes.
Ryan Green.
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis.
Yes.
Mayor Barnard.
Yes.
Wes Cobble.
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Yes.
Bob Orsini.
Yes.
Okay, moving to Resolution 2024-41, a resolution authorizing the city manager enter a developmental agreement or development agreement with Tech International LLC and IWR Holdings LLC, collectively TRC. So this was an item that council is recommending to, or finance is recommending to council that we move forward with the authorize the city manager and to enter into a development agreement with them. Is there anything you'd like to explain on this, Sean?
Yes, and depending on what you would like to do, we can arrange the agenda accordingly. but I will give you a very high level of this, but there is an executive session in case it's necessary and you all have questions, which is totally fine and totally appropriate, that we would then go to executive session to discuss the confidential business information of an applicant for economic development. What is before you, and I'll give what I gave Finance Committee out loud, the real important piece here is the third whereas in exchange for TRC's substantial investment into the property and continue operation in Johnstown, the city is prepared to reimburse TRC for a portion of the project as it relates to a commercial drive aisle on the property. Like I said, if you have additional questions, what the details of this look like, we can discuss that. I would recommend an executive session and then come out of executive session and then you can pass it. Or if you feel you have enough information at this moment and you wanted to pass it, that is also your right.
Anybody from finance would like to speak on this for the rest of the council?
I think it's good legislation, but we had an executive session in finance to discuss it as well, so.
I think it'd be appropriate to go in executive session to bring them up to speed.
Bring everyone up to speed, so.
Yep. I think you'll come to the same conclusion.
So Teresa, from a procedure, should we table this for now, come back to it after, or move the agenda around to have a quick executive session to bring everyone up to speed, and then proceed on this particular resolution?
You can do that. You can go into an executive session now just to make sure everybody's aware of what's happening. And
Yeah,
then
do
come
this.
back and you can
Okay, let's do that.
act on the legislation.
So I'll make a motion to go into executive session. Well, no, I want to make it a motion to amend the agenda. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to move item 16 up to item, let's call it 12A, between 12 and 13. So I want to move line item 16 to just above line item 13.
Second?
Is there a second?
12 and a half.
12 and a half, whatever. I need a second.
I know where it is.
A second.
Are all in favor?
Aye.
No one opposed?
All right, now I'd like to make a motion to move into executive session to discuss confidential business information of an applicant for economic development assistance, including all of council and the city manager.
Second?
Okay. Bob Orsini?
Yes.
Dave Sealand?
Yes.
Ryan Green?
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis?
Yes.
Mayor Barnard?
Yes.
Wes Cole?
Yes.
Jeff Barr?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be right back.
All right, over under on 10 minutes.
Over.
Over, yeah, that's always the
same.
I don't think this is gonna be anything different.
It's like, it's $500.
Even though I don't think we're streaming. I guess I could try it again.
It's about. I guess it's some meeting.
Came right through that.
And Johnson.
I did so right across the
I didn't see you coming in.
Jeff. We're moving back into regular council.
We did.
We're going back to Resolution 2024-41, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a development agreement with the Tech International LLC and IWR Holdings LLC, collectively TRC. We opened this up, I'll open it up to the public now. Do you guys have any questions on this item? Council, do you have any questions? What is the will of council on Resolution 2024-41?
Motion to approve resolution 2024-41 as written.
One second.
Bob Orsini?
Yes.
Dave Seeland?
Yes.
Ryan Green?
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis?
Yes.
Mayor Barnard?
Yes.
Wes Cobble?
Yes.
Jeff Clark?
Yes.
Okay. That is all the legislation, introduction of legislation. We have other business after the executive session. Is that fine? Okay.
Unless you want to do it before.
There's only one resident in here.
There's the one thing that you want to talk about.
Yeah,
You want to say that for after?
it doesn't matter to me. I don't care.
If I'd have
In-
thought about it, I'd have.
In consideration of time.
Yeah.
You just want to do it, let's do it before. That way, we're all done with everything.
That's fine.
Okay.
That gives other
And then,
people.
then staff can go home. too.
Yes.
Make a motion to amend the agenda again. I'd like to move item 17 to
Between 13 and 14.
between agenda items 13 and 14.
Second.
Are all in favor?
Aye. Okay, moving to other business. I'll start on this side first. Bob, Jeff, or Dave, or Wes, do you have anything?
I'm sure I'll come back to, but others may have something else.
Okay. Since Tiffany brought the one item, we'll go ahead and, I don't know who wants to start talking about it, Sean or Tiffany?
Tiffany, go ahead.
Yeah, so we had, I think we talked about it at our last meeting, we had, I think we're calling it, Jeff, the water delegation, is that what you refer to it as?
It's a delegation, you got it right.
Delegation. To discuss, we met with Southwest Licking and JAG to, discuss a collaborative effort. We decided to have the operators of each entity, being Jack, CJ from Southwest Licking, and I believe Matt from Granville, if that's right, get together and just kind of do, I don't know, an overview of, and honestly, just, first and foremost, meet, I think is the first move, and then just briefly discuss and kind of brainstorm session. There's been an email list going back and forth. I think everyone was included in that today. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to look over it. Sean, do you have?
No, just, obviously the email went out today. I was looking for some direction, on next steps forward. There seems to be two alternative schools of thought on the plant operators meeting. One alternative would be to have them meet, do introductions. I think Jack has a relationship, or at least knows CJ. Matt from Granville, I'm not sure if everyone is acquainted with Matt, but have a meeting and then just, as Tiffany stated, brainstorm about general topics. What was discussed at that meeting that I was a part of, and Tiffany and Donnie and Ryan, was having a little bit more structure associated with that particular meeting. And this is another alternative, that if the operators were to meet, that they would have specific questions that they would need to navigate through in order to give some focus, but also obviously the opportunity to introduce themselves, but really keeping an agenda associated with that meeting to have some focused conversation, and then give us some reports back. And much of that information is in that email. If there's any questions, simply ask. But like I said, there's the two alternatives. One is having specific questions for the operators to go through. The other is just for them to meet and give general feedback on, I guess, a wider range of topics. I don't know. But I've gotten feedback from Herb, who wanted to do the questions, from Granville, as well as Alexandria. And so obviously there's an alternative way of thinking about it, so I'm trying to do
My
whatever
takeaway from the
council
initial
wants.
meeting was that it's an effort to build the relationship between Johnstown, Alexandria, Granville, and Southwest Licking. So, you know, the thought is having the operators who actually do the job sit down and build that relationship to start, and then we can build on that going forward. To me, that should be without constraints of control or narrative. I think they are three very qualified professionals in their field that are administrators of their division, and I don't believe they need direction from any of us who don't hold any certifications in that field to have a conversation and build the relationship, which is, I think, what we were, the intent of getting them together. Obviously, there's not going to be any decisions made. I think that some best ideas are birthed in brainstorming sessions where free conversation is allowed to flow. So that's just my input. Obviously, there are 7 of us, and there were 3 of us on that delegation. I'm being overruled, so it's coming to the rest of you for input.
Who else is on the delegation?
Donnie and I.
I left by that point, so I wasn't part of that discussion. I have no problem with them talking, meeting, getting to know each other. I do want, if there's a second meeting, that there be some structure to it.
When you say structure, what exactly do you mean?
If there, this is a much bigger area that we're asking them to look into, that I think for water operations, sewer operations, they know it like the back of their hand, but there's more facets of it. How does it all go together? That I think people who are fully in depth in this need to have questions that they can answer, that they can talk about. And
So it's more a question of the interconnectivity, I guess, of
Yes.
the grand project versus individualized plans
right.
and their scope. I agree.
Jack, is it going to put you on the spot if I ask you for input? I mean, you've got 44 years' experience in the field. I just am curious what your thought is on the conversation.
Well, I think the delegation, I think that's good. I've known CJ for years, and he's known me. He doesn't know Matt. So again, if we're talking about a collaboration or co-servicing an area, yeah, I think it's good that we're talking to each other and we get to understand what type of boy, having trouble with words today. What type of treatment each plant has and how that would affect and what we could cover. And in my very just initial conversation is the first meeting that we were discussing, and we were actually discussing having a meeting tomorrow between 9:30 and 10:30, was basically just a Teams meeting with a meet and greet. You know, I'm Jack Liggett, I have these state certifications, I have this type of plant, I have this excess capacity, and they would each do the same. Then I think our next thought was, we'd actually pick a day that we were available. We would tour each other's plants, see what the facility is, and talk about our ability for expansion of each group and where. So the specifics of who's going to cover this area or that area, obviously, I think that gets into the politics of council members. But quality of treatment, where we could meet, where we could commingle and work in areas, I think that was going to be part of the discussion. You know, who has pressure capabilities to flow water one direction? Are you gonna have to pump it back to Johnstown, or can it flow into Johnstown, Southwest Licking? If you had wastewater, you'd have to pump it up to me, because if you're in that 161 area, so does it make sense for us to cover that area? Now, we're talking just as operators, as you said, Tiffany, that we've been in the business. We know whether we need lift stations or rather we can be gravity fed. or whether we need booster pumps, we're just gonna discuss those type of things. But obviously, the service directors and water and sewer superintendents, we don't have the voting capacity of you folks there, but I think we can have a good roundtable conversation.
And bring that information back.
Bring that information back.
Now, will some of that information, will you need engineers to help determine the capability of flow, how things flow? I mean, because it seems like there's going to be engineers needed to determine, okay.
Well, before you design anything, yes, none of us are engineers. And to get anything through the EPA, it's gonna have to have an engineer.
Well, I'm talking about like getting it from Southwest Licking to Johnstown or Johnstown to Alexander, like.
Well, topography is a lot of what you're doing, and so let's talk about, just as an example, I'm not saying it's anything, but Monroe Township, areas up north. It really doesn't make sense, in my mind, sitting here today, that Southwest Licking would want to service that area up north. It makes sense that that area would flow into the expanded Johnstown plan. I think what more of our discussion would be those common areas that we all think we can service, and just discuss who we thought could service it easier, less expensive, that type of thing. But obviously, engineers will be part of it in the end before any decision would be made.
Which I think the intent of letting them talk first was saving some money on engineering costs initially, letting them come up with, a more streamlined thing to present to us and engineers, instead of going straight to the engineers and letting them start from scratch. We're kind of, letting these guys steer the ship a little bit to get handed off to the engineers at that point, if we're gonna even be able to. It also, I think, will tell us if we can even come to a collaborative end, are we even able to work together? Are we able to do?
Jack, the team is.
From an operator's point of view, I'll be honest with you, we help each other all the time.
Yeah.
An example, we have the Fournier press, which presses biosolids at the sewer plant, a plant up in Holmes County, which is a little ways away. They installed one, couldn't get it to operate, couldn't get it to work. So I set up a day that an operator myself, we went up to Holmes County. We were able to troubleshoot, diagnose the problem, and got them back online within a week. We support each other in this business.
It's amazing what you can accomplish when you take the politics out of it.
Yeah, I can tell you this, we are not an adversarial group. Now, we work as directed by our councils, or in the Southwest Licking's district, they're people that are in control. But as a group, we go to training sessions together, we see each other, we learn, we have to get continuing education every year. And I don't think you'll see an adversarial problem between any of the operators.
So
I think-
it's you and who are the other two operators?
Southwest Licking and Granville.
CJ and then
CJ, the names I was looking
Yes,
for.
is from Southwest Licking, and Matt Robinette is the individual from Granville.
Okay.
the spirit of the conversation in the room that day, because we started out with engineers, and the joke was made quickly of that gets expensive when you go down that road and try to engineer a whole process. What we wanted to see is if we could get the guys who do this every day in a room, brainstorm high-level topics, see what's possible, see what you think is possible, at least for the first couple meetings, and without any of the political bias or minutia that the engineers would bring of, well, you can't do this or you can't do that. We want to see what's possible first, and I think we want to have these guys have a good conversation about what they can do before we bring, more framework to it. So I'd like to let that process play out first.
And I believe that can happen, but I will guarantee you, none of us are going to engineer a project and bring it in and set it in front of you. That's not what we do.
So how much, how much of the how, right? The what, I guess, the what that goes into each of your plants, how much of that what is the blind spot for each of the operators?
Well, I guess we're talking about a little bit about capacity, and they want to see what our plant looks like. It's a very different plant than theirs. I'm not sure I totally understand your question, but, you know, we're gonna talk about excess capacity, ability to build on and grow capacities, which would help us decide what areas, you know, can be covered without construction.
Yeah, well, I think the area is kind of turning, and I kind of want to remove the word politics out of this, because I don't think this is a political piece, this is a strategic piece, when we're talking about the JAG program, right? So, I think, you know, your guys' teams meeting to discuss the what other capabilities of each of your plants. I mean, you guys support each other and going into deeper understanding of the black and white functionality and the capabilities of your plant is a good start, because that gives the what. Now, the how, I think that turns into the bigger picture question of the strategy of what we're trying to do on the grand scheme.
Well, Bob Orsini actually asked one question that he probably doesn't remember because it was through, but when we were talking about, Johnstown has been a standalone plant for the entire 44 years I've been here. If a tornado comes through and takes my facility down, we got tall orders and problems. So we have talked about, you know, connectivity, and the question came up, well, it's a $6 million project estimated to tie into Alexandria. I think that needs to happen. But in a non-political world, if I can spend $3 million and hook into Southwest Licking as a emergency use group, see, my hope with that valve would never be opened.
Mm-hmm.
But as an emergency use group, we could work back and forth with each other. And actually, the big scheme, the best picture is Southwest Licking hooks to us, we hook to Alexandria, Alexandria's hooked to Granville, Granville's hooked to Newark, and that's how we create regional coverage for the area. Now, that's just my
Hooked
thought.
in the sense that it's emergency.
Yeah.
For one another, right? There's redundancy.
Yeah. Because we don't
Sure, I
have a
understand
totally
what you-
separate plant on the north end of Johnstown.
Yeah.
You know, we've been standalone, we've been fortunate, we've had enough tower capacity when our plant's been down to be able to get it fixed before something happens. So I think that's also part of what we're gonna talk about, is how could we work together to support each other? Like I said, the water and wastewater operators group, we're more of a supportive group to each other. I mean, if somebody needs a pump or needs a valve and that individual doesn't have it in his stock, Johnstown over the years has loaned that out as long as it's, you know, replaced back into our system. That's how we work.
So I think the
try to-
decision that needs to be made is Sean has a list of questions and a third, well, I don't want to call it a third party, but a facilitator that he would like for the meeting. I would like to see them meet without that, without those constraints first. So I think,
Facilitated, whether you,
I believe it was Don Rector.
Don
Is
Rector,
that Don
yeah.
Rector from,
Correct.
well, I know Don Rector very well. I've known Don Rector for 30 years. What would he have to do with this?
that's my question
He's
too.
over in
I
Becker,
am
too.
confused about that
No,
also.
I'm asking a question.
I think based on the email that he was a nonpartisan person that he could,
Good
make-
what? He knows nothing about our facilities.
he was just a nonpartisan person, so that, what was
This-
the,
That's my problem with it though, is we're supposed to be building a relationship between these
I
entities.
get that part. I just don't
so
understand the
don't know
hang-up
why
of-
we would bring in another party.
I'm okay with possibly not bringing another party. My problem is, why are we so against some questions being answered with these operators?
I think, well, look at the list of questions or the idea of the questions just in themselves, that was discussed in that meeting, correct?
No.
No.
No, we were a really high level topic in the meeting. So it was pretty much let these guys talk, see what's possible,
But
get
what's-
us close.
Well, if you have certain questions you want answered, I obviously would have to know what those
Right.
questions are. I mean, I would,
But I don't understand why we don't want them to at least have some, answer these questions while you guys are here. You guys can talk for 55 of the 60 minutes, just,
As long as we have an audience for it that can answer the questions that are on the grand scheme of the project that we're looking at, right?
I'm not opposed to them
Because I
having
have no
questions
idea
to
what the
answer.
questions are.
You okay with the questions, but
I'm not opposed to
having
them
a media-
having questions to answer. I'm opposed to them being constantly directed and told what they can and can't talk about. We should
So-
be able to I mean, that's the whole point of this.
No one's
is to-
asking them to not have a meeting. You have a meeting scheduled
Okay,
already
so
tomorrow morning,
if
right?
if I could, so
A Teams meeting.
if the, whatever the questions are at, Jack's got them, let him
No, I
go,
don't.
let him
He
go
doesn't.
meet without a mediator.
He doesn't have them.
I understand that.
I don't have any questions.
I know you don't at this point, but if there's questions that, wherever they're coming from, it doesn't matter. Is the questions an issue, Tiff, or is it more about?
A little bit.
Why though? I mean, we're
about
just
that.
saying, you guys are meeting, can you at least answer these questions while you're here? You're the experts.
No one up here at this table currently has the certifications that Jack holds. No one has the certifications that CJ holds. I don't know how we can come up with more information or guided questions for them to stick to that they can't come up with themselves. What is the harm in letting them have a
What is the
conversation?
harm of asking them just to ask questions? I don't understand why you're so anti-asking questions. I mean, it's just questions asked.
I do want to be clear about the questions too. I don't know what the questions are.
No, we know you don't know the questions.
They're not.
These are questions.
And we may not be able to answer them in that
Jack's
55
along for the ride in this for a second, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, I get it. You don't want to see him shoved through
No,
a
and-
conduit right out of the
But
gate.
what I'm saying.
Yes,
I
I
wanna-
don't want
I
there to
wanna
be
see
controls
some-
and constraints. I would like them to be able to
Depending on the
freely
question.
brainstorm.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm asking CJ a question and I don't know what the question is, he may not be available to answer that question that second. Okay, I'll go back and look at that and get back to you. I have no idea what type of questions we're talking about.
Yeah, we don't.
My.
They weren't
first
given to you yet
impression-
because the group hadn't decided if we were given to you or not.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like we can have a neutral like, facilitator of the conversation because they all know each other. It seems like all you guys know each other regionally anyway.
Don Record, and
So
please don't take what I said. I didn't say anything negative about Don Record.
no, I'm just saying like it's
He's a
it's
good-
going to be hard to have like a neutral guy to lead it because you just all know each other anyway. So I don't
He's
think
not
you
a-
really.
He's not a moderator. He's
Yeah,
not a moderator.
not a
or
moderator.
judge.
Yeah,
He's just
Like, I
he's just in there for.
So I don't think we need that, and I don't want to see him shoved through a conduit right out of the gate. I want to see you guys come up with some stuff, and then we'll drill down as we go.
Well, all that we were doing tomorrow.
Yeah, and this is what I'm getting back at. What you're doing tomorrow is the what.
Introducing ourselves to each other.
Yeah.
Letting each other know what certifications we each had in water and wastewater. So we know what level of work we're talking about. And we're gonna do a quick discussion on what our plants were. Now, that's probably gonna wrap up the 55 minutes pretty quick. My understanding was then we'd have a second meeting to drill down deeper. But if there is an agenda that I don't know about. I don't
There's
know.
no agenda, and I don't have a problem with you guys meeting, talking tomorrow, what you just mentioned about tomorrow.
Yeah.
But for the second meeting, I think there needs to be more of a focus on
Yeah,
The
good.
first meeting was just, hey, let's
get to know each other.
get to know each other and start a dialogue between the three communities. Of course, I just found out about this just
Yeah,
the
but
other day.
yeah, but again, what I was getting at is that the meeting that you already have scheduled for tomorrow is the what, right? What you can do, what systems you have, what accreditations you have, other seminars or any kind of training that you've been to. But then after that, then that's when you introduce the additional people to have a grander scheme picture on what a how would look like. You know,
Dave, from my perspective, is one meeting, I trying to move this along a little bit, bringing in other people at the second meeting for them, why not let them have a meeting? It's the soft stuff first. And they probably are going to do a little brainstorming of things that, hey, let's set up a second meeting and we'll focus on this topic or topics. That's, I can appreciate what Tiffany is saying, let some of this stuff kind of organically just happen. I'm sure Mr. Liggett will report to Sean and the issue at hand, it might be appropriate where it's an email to Sean and CCing council. This is what happened in the first meeting, kind of high level, and this is what we're going to meet again, and we're going to discuss these kind of things. At some point, it's going to be appropriate of more to come, but to bring in other people from the outside, whoever that is, for a second meeting doesn't really give them an opportunity to go beyond just saying, hello, here's who I am, and these are my credentials, and this is what we do in what other agency. I'd prefer to see some stuff just kind of happen organically. I trust Jack as a professional of knowing, not just professional in his job, but a professional city employee, that he's going to know the right time and place to bring things to his immediate supervisor, the city manager, to say, hey, here it is where I need some direction.
So is your takeaway from everything that was discussed contrary to what's in the email
Well, you said
chain?
the second meeting,
Yeah,
to have other people come in at their second meeting.
yeah, the second meeting.
Why do we need them at the second meeting? I think they need more than just a meeting,
Okay.
is my,
Well, no, but the email chain I'm looking at here, with the other parties involved, you're CC'd on this, says that that was the takeaway, that there would be a second meeting and that would be facilitated. Was that not your takeaway from that meeting?
why do they need a facilitator for their second meeting?
Well, but that's what it says in the, that's what the email, I'm just discussing what's in the email here.
I think that's what's this issue, is having a facilitator at the second meeting.
So there's a difference of opinions on what was discussed at the meeting that set up this email chain.
That appears to be what I read.
Yeah,
Dave.
this
There
came
was-
in afterwards. That wasn't discussed.
Yeah,
at
none
the
of that
meeting.
was discussed at the meeting.
What wasn't?
The whole framework of these meetings,
You mean the questions?
the questions,
The
the
questions.
facilitator, all of it.
So I'll add some, my perspective. The questions were discussed in the meeting. Herb from Granville was there, it's in the email. He also recollects the questions. I do want to back up to try to alleviate any contention. If this is just simply an introductory meeting, so that they all get to meet each other, I don't have any opposition to that. However, I just learned that it was an introductory meeting today. I wasn't even aware that the meeting was actually happening. Where we left off was we were going to put together a list of questions. This is at the meeting. We're going to put together a list of questions, possibly 5, circulate those to the group, see if those questions were agreeable for everyone, kick those over to Southwest Licking, allow them to add, subtract, give concerns of the questions that were going to be given to the operators, and then we would have them meet to ask those specific questions. And I want to back up even further. The reason for the meeting was because we gave them a proposal. We went through a list of the proposal items, and 2 of them were question marked. So 2 of them were question marked. The operator meeting started to come out of the question marks that remained with those 2 items. Could this be done? Could it not be done? In order to start to answer some of those questions, there was, hey, maybe the operator should meet to try to give us some answers. I said, I think maybe some engineers should be involved as well. Don't necessarily have an opposition to the operators meeting, as long as there's some structured framework associated with the proposal at hand. There is a timeline on the proposal. I think we're trying to move that along. And I appreciate everyone getting to know each other, and that's fine, and I think that's fantastic. However, if we're gonna have a meet and greet the first time, and then another meeting where I'm not sure exactly what's being proposed would be discussed, are we moving the ball forward with the
But
proposal?
Sean, you didn't move the ball forward because you didn't even take it to Jack. Jack learned from CJ about this meeting. He didn't learn from you. After the delegation met, you should have immediately taken it to Jack. Jack learned that from CJ. So if the problem is moving the ball forward, you fumbled.
We didn't even have the questions gathered, so what was I gonna present to Jack as far as, hey, you're gonna have an operators meeting? I don't have the questions for you yet, but at some point, we're gonna have an operators meeting without any specific details. I was trying to gather the questions first, and honestly, it was supposed to be me that was supposed to set up the meeting between the operators. CJ took that upon himself. Maybe that's he left early as well, so maybe that's a miscommunication there. But where it was left was I had action items. I was gonna be the one that originated the meeting, not CJ. So, like I said, I'm not trying to be confrontational with this, but I am laying out what was happening in that meeting and the direction that I had, and why I didn't include Jack yet was because I didn't have any questions for him yet. And I still didn't have any questions in confirmation from the body that these were approved. So, like I said, I don't have any problem with them doing an introductory, hey, how are we doing? But but I do need to push the ball forward on the proposal. In the first email, it was referenced, not an introduction email. The first email that was sent out was, hey, let's let the operators run free. Let's let them brainstorm. If that's the email that went out, that's the one I'm basing my decision off of and having you all give me what you want to proceed with. If that's the information that I'm gathering, that you want them to just sit down and brainstorm, that's not consistent with what we heard at the meeting, and it's not consistent with what Granville and Alexandria also perceived to be the conclusion at the end of that meeting. So I'm only dealing with the information I have.
So what does council want?
Last, if I could, sorry, last two things I'll add to this. Jack does run a plant every single day, and he does a fantastic job at it, and he's done it for 40-some years. Jack does not do land use planning. Jack does not do growth models associated with the demand levels that are going to be needed to make the assessments on the proposal. Because the big piece of the proposal was, can we service portions of Jersey Township to help Southwest Licking not go into a tremendous amount of debt, allowing them to achieve their objectives and allowing us to help along the process if we have capacity. That's one of the question items. Do we have capacity? But one of the bigger questions is how fast will they need that capacity? And those are going to be answers that I think CJ may be able to help with. But then past that, we're going to say, what is the other expected growth demands for that area? Again, that's planners, that's engineers. What are going to be the capacities necessary from a line sizing standpoint? I don't know that Jack wants to dive into what line size we need for the next 20 years for the development that may be happening out in Jersey Township. There's a lot of speculation that could occur there. So we would probably need to lean on the information that we get from Morpheus. Another piece of this is the financials. Jack could operate a plant fantastically, but when it comes to the financing of the plant, I don't think Jack wants to be a part of, hey, we're going to collect this much because we're going to sell this much water and sewer, and we can take on $100 million worth of debt. That's going to be the Daves of the world. That's going to be the me's of the world. That's going to be other financial consultants. The other piece is understanding the natural resources of the area, and that is how much water is available locally. Where's the best spot to discharge that? Again, engineering questions. I'm not trying to remove Jack from the conversation. I'm trying to give them guidance, to ask them pieces that they do know and they can be helpful so that we can move it forward. But at some point, we're going to have to bring in the engineers, the financiers, the planners, and things like that to fill in the blanks with what Jack, CJ, and Matt just simply, it's not in their wheelhouse.
Can we get a point of order? We need to either make a decision for our guests or end this and pick this conversation up some way. I don't know if there's some way procedurally, get into the executive session, take care of that business, and then resume this conversation. Because I feel like it's dragging
Procedure, you
out.
make a motion, and then once a motion is called to the floor, we have to vote on it. That ends discussion. But before you do anything, I'm going to make a motion to eliminate executive session line item 15 to discuss. I'm going to make a motion to amend the agenda to eliminate line item 15 for executive session, discuss imminent court action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, on the next
I
one.
would like to make just one statement. I want to make it clear to all council sitting up there, somehow I have this feeling that I'm getting in the middle.
No, you're not.
I'm in the middle of nothing. I didn't know anything about your delegation, any of those conversations, none of that was brought to me. I told Sean, I received a phone call from CJ saying, hey, we're supposed to set up this meeting, okay? I talked to Sean after that phone call. He said, well, I'm developing some questions. I said, well, we've already set up a meeting. CJ called me, said, this is what we're supposed to do. And then Sean sent me an email today, full disclosure, said, I think that meeting will be canceled.
I said that meeting may be put on hold.
Maybe
and that's-
put on hold. Oh,
And that's from a
okay.
conversation that I had with Herb, who's also a part of the email chain. And as you can see, he had a different view. And I still am waiting confirmation from Herb. He may or may not want his operator to participate in that meet and greet
See,
tomorrow.
so that rings the bell for me. Before we walk out of here, am I to be part of the meeting or not? I really want that direction because, like I said, I feel like I'm getting in a pivot here.
No,
where
you
I'm
report
in
to
the
Sean.
middle of the
You report to Sean.
delegation.
Sean reports to us. We give Sean the guidance. He gives you the guidance.
Okay, so where I'm at here is I need to know, because I have not received anything from CJ or Matt saying that we weren't going to, and this was just a Teams meeting. We're not going anywhere, I mean, it's it's gonna take an hour of my day to discuss and talk about these things. So I just wanna make it clear, I'm not going rogue here. I got a phone call, asked to be part of a meeting that I thought everybody knew about. And so I said yes. So before we leave, I just want to make sure you guys know that. And I guess I need direction, whether I need to be part of that phone call or not. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Jack.
So what does council want to happen?
Jack needs to be a part of the phone call. I mean,
The meet and greet tomorrow.
yes. I mean,
I don't have any opposition.
Yeah,
to that.
I mean, the
I
meet
think
and greet
we're-
again is,
I think we're
is
all
the nuts and
there.
bolts, black and white. What can
Yes.
you do? What systems do you have? Accreditations you have?
What type of system do you
And I
have?
think-
Yeah,
yeah,
I don't see any harm in
Based-
that.
based on what I'm-
conversation.
Yeah, and based on how I'm hearing, both in Herb's email, is that then a structured conversation meeting happens afterwards that aligns to what the strategy would be as a collective?
Okay. Yeah, I see no problem
Yeah.
with the three main operators.
The problem arises, they meet tomorrow, they talk, we don't meet again for 3 weeks, so unless they're not gonna talk again for 3 weeks, we need to give them the guidance what happens for the second
Well,
meeting.
what I'm going to do at the conclusion of that meeting is say until we hear further from our respective groups on our direction, we will not have another meeting. Unless I'm hearing that we need to go ahead. See, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
we
I understand, Jack.
need to figure out the framework of this. So definitely have the meeting tomorrow.
Yep.
Everybody should be there. I think there should be a second meeting for brainstorming. They need to sit down and actually figure out what is remotely feasible.
In what
But how do they know?
capacity?
Yeah, what,
These guys
I thought
these
that's
guys
what the de-
understand.
Isn't that what the purpose, generally speaking?
Yes,
Isn't
it
that what
was.
the
And that's
delegation?
what the
Yes, it was.
delegation came up with, is let
Yes,
these
it
guys
was.
I'm
meet
gonna
and
leave it
talk
to
it
the
out.
delegation. I'm not.
but
gonna-
how do they know what's even possible if they don't know how many customers they have to serve? Where,
I think they all know how many customers they
No, they
have
don't. No one-
roughly.
But
I think they
that would
know
be
the
the framework of the
parameters of
questions,
their
no?
service
Okay.
area.
But
you
we're in this, how do
understand
we
how
know?
water flows. You understand capacities.
But that's the what. But the how and the why. That's the strategic part.
They're
of
not
it.
making any decisions. They're
They're not
just
making any
collecting
decisions.
information, and
But if Jack comes to us, if Jack doesn't have all the facts and Jack comes
we're
to
not
us,
going to agree. So let's just like let it go. It's, I don't
I'm
know. We're
talking
not.
for a minute. If Jack
Okay.
comes back to us and says, this is not possible, with Jack's 44 years of experience, we're gonna say, well, Jack says this is not possible. If he doesn't have all the facts to know
He's
if
going
it's
to come back
possible
and
or
say it's not possible because of da 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 da,
If,
da,
they could,
and then
if
we're
this
going to go
group
to an
comes
engineer
back
and
and says
say,
this is not possible,
can
we
you look
saved
at
a lot of
this?
money on engineering.
Absolutely.
You're, just as a point, you're already spending the money on engineering. That's what you had
Yours.
EMH&T do the
What was that, Tiffany?
utility
That
planning.
he's spending the money on engineering? No, this group voted, and the vote was for him to spend on engineering.
Don't
It
talk to me
wasn't-
like that.
I'm
Please.
speaking to you because
Do
I'm
not talk to me
clarifying
like
you.
that.
I'm clarifying.
Mr. Mayor,
you.
I'd like to ask for a recess, 5 minutes, please.
Brandon,
Call to vote.
yes. All right,
Motion made. Do we have a second?
second.
Call for a recess.
I did.
Yes.
5-minute recess.
No recess.
If you're gonna make comments that are heard on microphone underneath your breath, I'm gonna clarify them. That's all I'm saying.
Stop.
I don't have to
Stop.
stop.
This is what the recess is for.
or sale of property to include all of council, the city manager, and all of the Johnstown Monroe School Board and superintendent.
I'd second that motion.
One moment. And the
Oh, and
treasurer.
and treasurer.
And treasurer.
Sorry.
What is the treasurer's name?
Yes, we know her name.
What is, Felicia? Is that, okay, just making sure. All right. Bob Orsini,
Yes.
Dave Seeling,
Yes.
Ryan Green,
Yes.
Tiffany Hollis,
Yes.
Mayor Barnard,
Yes.
Wes Cobble,
Yes.
Jeff Barr.
Affirm.
With no business to follow.
Okay.